of being sued for defamation. The last Dáil term, however, was marred by complaints that privilege was breached by the very politicians it seeks to protect. And earlier this month, the Ceann Comhairle, Sean Ó Fíoraíl, announced that an expert forum would examine issues around this constitutional right. But Bríd Smith, Solidarity TD and a member of the Oireachtas Committee on Dáil Procedure, has taken issue with this forum. I asked her why.
Well, first of all, I don't see the need for it, because when Sean spoke to me, the Ceann Comhairle spoke to me about why he wanted to establish this as a member of the Committee of Procedures and Privileges, he did have the conversation with me, but he said there were a number of issues to do with court cases, like Dennis O'Brien's court case, the Angela Cairns
from rehab.
Yes, from rehab, and complaints from Deputy McSherry against Mary Lou MacDonald and Paul Murphy. Now, all of them are separate and they're all quite different. And I don't see a thread that runs between them all, but he says that he wants to get advice on how better to conduct ourselves. As far as I'm concerned, generally speaking, 90% of the time, Sean Ó Fíoraíl is a really good chairperson. He's fair, he's firm, and he conducts the Dáil business in a good way. Now, obviously, there are times that we all say things and do things under privilege that the Constitution allows us. And now he wants advice from a 4-person committee as to how we would do it different. My second problem with the whole process is the people he has chosen to give that advice. All 4 of them are members of an elite. One of them in particular is a leading member of Fianna Fáil, the party that Ceann Comhairle himself belongs to.
Well, at this point, Bríd, we should name the people that are on this committee that Sean Ó Fíoraíl is establishing. You have Professor David Farrell, the Chair of Politics at UCD and Head of the School of Politics and International Relations there. We have Conleth Bradley, who's a Senior Counsel. You have Conor Brady, former Editor of the Irish Times, former member of GSOC. And you have Mary Hanafin, of course, former Government Minister and now a councillor on Dunleary, Rathdown County Council and a member of Fianna Fáil. That's the committee.
Sure. And I was talking about Mary Hanafin there when I mentioned that she's a leading member of Fianna Fáil and will most likely run in the next general election. So it's very lopsided to have one party with a leading member dominating a committee that then has representatives from a very elite group in Irish society. There isn't a single member of a working class community or a trade union part of that committee. So it's very weighted towards the elite and doesn't actually weigh towards a voice that's now in the Dáil, quite prominent in the Dáil, which is a voice of the left and Sinn Féin, which is very different to the rest of them.
Did you bring your concerns to Sean Ó Fíoraíl and how did he respond?
I did bring them and I wrote to him. I thought about it a lot and I said, I've thought about this, Sean, and I want to put it in writing why I object to the committee in the first place and then how I see it as loaded with members of the elite and not representative of working class communities. And he got back to me and he basically said, you make a good point. I will try and get this committee to take all those things into consideration, but I'm going ahead anyway. They'll make recommendations, it'll come back to the committee and then the committee will go before the Dáil with it. Now, as far as I'm concerned, this should not be happening, and as far as I can see, the reason it's happening is mainly because of the Paul Murphy Jobstown issue and how that was dealt with in the Dáil. And then secondly, I think I'm not being conspiratorial about this, I think it's really an attempt to close down the voice of the left.
But hold, you're a member of the Committee on Procedures and Privileges. It's called absolute privilege, and it is an extraordinary privilege to have that power in the Dáil to speak without fear of any form of sanction. On you to do that. And it isn't good enough really that 90% of the time politicians might get it right. You need to really belt and braces on this one and try to be as clear as possible that you are 100% certain of the information that you put into the public domain through the Dáil.
Yes, that's correct. But a lot of the time when you use that privilege, it's not to try and second guess what's actually happening. It is with 100% knowledge that what you're saying is true. Now, okay, somebody may make an accusation against somebody else that isn't absolutely correct, and I've seen this happen. But then you're entitled to make a complaint to the Committee of Procedures and Privileges, which is what happens. And we deal with them. So I don't know what this extra committee of the elite is being set up for to advise the Committee of Procedures and then the Dáil on how to do their business differently.
All right, let me finish
We're guided
it.
by the Constitution and we take legal
All
advice.
right, let me finish it like this. If you or one of your colleagues on the left was offered a position on this forum, would you accept it? Would you participate?
I don't know what to say to that question, Mary. I think if that forum is going to go ahead and they said to me, who would you recommend to go on it? I can think of plenty of sound, really good community leaders or trade union representatives that I would recommend for it. But I think there has to be balance on it if it's going ahead.
The views there of Solidarity TD Breed Smith. The main stories this evening, Taoiseach Leo Varadkar